Hi there and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here and being a proactive parent and getting the resources that you need to let your child live their most fulfilling and independent life possible. When my own son was diagnosed with autism, I was told to drug him and try behavioral therapies, and there was nothing else that we could do for him but manage his symptoms the rest of his life. But I didn't want to do that. Fortunately, my background in craniosacral therapy of now 30 years let me know that the brain can and does heal, but I didn't know that much about autism. What I did know is that I didn't want to just mask the symptoms with dangerous drugs. I wanted to find the causes and work with them naturally. And fast forward, it took me a decade and a lot of time and effort, but today my son is no longer diagnosable with autism after being told it could not happen. So I'm here to share with you valuable resources to save you the time and some of the expense that I had to spend to figure it out, and to help you let your child lead to their best results possible. Every child's level of recovery is different, but we know that children who couldn't sleep through the night are sleeping now through the night and happily. Their immune systems are now strong where they were once sick all the time. Children who were nonverbal and their parents were told they could never speak are now speaking. Children who were getting D's and F's in school are getting A's and B's. And those that were so anxious all the time and couldn't sit still and were uncomfortable in their own bodies are now calm and happy and relaxed. And they're leading fulfilling and independent lives with friends. This is what we want for our kids. So I'm here to share the resources with you so that you can get the best results for your child, the best possible. And you can start that right now with my free download of the top 7 foods to eliminate beginning today, of the top foods that are the most inflammatory and toxic that are contributing to those physical and behavioral symptoms of autism that your child is having that are making his life uncomfortable. So you can get that right now at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/7 foods. And feel free to share that with anybody you know who would be interested. And I will also link to it in today's show notes. There's, of course, a lot more than diet, but this is something you could start doing today that will begin to reduce those symptoms. And I'm happy to share everything I can with you. So right now, let's dive into today's episode. Well, thank you again for being here with us. I'm really excited about today's episode because it's a subject that tends to be a little sensitive with parents of children with autism, but is something that every parent pretty much experiences, and that is around finances. We know that the special needs of our kids can add up. The price of things, of therapies, programs, healthcare, educational needs, and then wanting to make sure that our kids are safe and have something to live on even after we're gone. And a lot of parents, you might have money, but then you're worried that if you keep up with the expenses that you've been doing for your child that are necessary, and you don't want to stop short of doing anything that is important for them, their health care, and for being able to help optimize the results that you're getting with their all of the therapies and everything that you're doing for them. But we don't want those funds to run out, and that can be concerning. So I have wished for years that I could come up with some way to help parents of children with autism to make money, or to have an extra fund for security purposes. And I have found it in I'm so grateful that this has come into my life, because I started to use, I heard about it from a friend, and then I started utilizing it myself, dug deeper and deeper into, as you know, I'm quite the researcher. So I dug deeper and deeper to find the credibility of the company, to then started my own fund with it, to watch it grow, see how it worked, looked at its validation, make sure that it was really as real and as good as it all presented itself to be. And it is. And I would not be even offering this or sharing this with you if it wasn't as good as I have found it to be, and as a way to help you have more financial security, or build some, even if you're concerned. I know a lot of people have lost their jobs even due to COVID. So just to be able to have something extra to help you, again, feeling more secure and being able to do all of the things that you need with the extra financial funds and issues that come up with being a parent of a child with autism. And I personally know that myself. And of course, in this episode, we're also going to be giving a disclaimer that nothing, contained here is should be construed as investment advice, and it's for informational purposes only. And any reference to investments, past or potential performance, is not and should not be construed as a recommendation or a guarantee of any specific outcome or profit. Anything holds risks, and you seek a duly licensed professional for investment advice. Of course, we need to say that, but again, I have a special guest with us here today who has been instrumental in helping me learn about this particular fund, and why it's so different than the others, and why it tends to have a higher percentage and how you can create it faster, I should say, because you can accelerate how it works for you. And we'll get into that here in a moment. But Amanda Lee is with us, and Amanda is also an autism mom. She was one of us as well, who has been able to share this with me in such a way that is more understandable, because we're also going to lead you to a fund page on my website. I'll give that to you now at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/fund, FUND. And that will give you a lot of great explanation as well beyond this. This is to introduce you to something that, again, we want to continue to further your education on and make sure that you are as comfortable and get your questions answered with it as possible. Amanda, thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate your time and your expertise.
You're welcome. Great being here.
And
Yes.
so, why don't you go ahead and share with us, Amanda, maybe a little bit about your background. I know it's in finance and your story, how you found Hyperfund, but also be able to share, more about the company itself and what makes it so strong and what they're doing.
Yeah, sure. Look, yeah, as you said, I'm also an autism mum. So I can completely relate to, the extra sort of time burden that we have on us as parents of special needs children. We're not really soccer mums. I think for a period of time there, they're like therapy mums. I remember, even my youngest, she was always in the pram of a waiting room when Georgia was at therapy or something like that's what we did after school. So I can completely relate to that. And I can also completely relate to, those sleepless nights when you think about, you know, the money that it's costing and the time, and we're not positioned as other families are often to be able to have the two incomes coming in. I know for myself, I had to opt for a self-employment route in terms of my work. I come from a professional background anyway, so that wasn't too difficult for me, but it's not necessarily the case for everybody. And but I did that because I wanted to be sure that I was there for Georgia when she required or needed me. But again, not practical for everybody. So, I mean, as you said, my background is in finance. I've been 6 years in the banking financial sector, 4 years in state and federal government lobbying, and then obviously I went into just simply my own accounting firm, tax accounting, because it suited me when my babies were little. So, and I mean, obviously, my eldest Georgia, 16 now, is on the diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and my youngest also undiagnosed dyspraxia, which affected her speech. So, yeah, sometimes we had double therapy days. So I get all that, and I know how tough it can be, and in our day to day things, often whilst it's in the back of our mind, it's not necessarily something that we have the time to kind of sit down and address or do something about is this kind of forward financial planning. Because the question then comes down to, well, what can we do? And as we know, a lot of the traditional methods nowadays, shares and stocks, if you're not versed in those, I don't want to be reading up and trying to learn about things that I don't really have the time to learn about. It's scary how much I know about autism and therapies, let alone, having to branch out into financial stuff then. Um, you know what I'm saying. So, and obviously the banks don't give us very much interest. So, I mean, my background, as I said, I sort of got a friend of mine introduced me to Bitcoin probably about nearly 7 years ago now. And I was intrigued by, what it represented and the mechanism. But obviously for the first part of it, part of that time when it was first introduced, it wasn't really taken seriously. It was thought to be a fad. A lot of people didn't understand it. Um, what it represented to the institutions obviously was very much a threat. So the institutions in power that be for such a long, long time were basically, in a way, hoping that it would fail. And that it was just simply a fad. And I mean, obviously, in any sector where there's a lot of money to be made, you do get a lot of scams and new companies popping up that don't necessarily make it or are sustainable. But I think it was very important for me when I looked at this project, and I mean, I've sort of made some money, lost some money over that time period of. But when I looked at this company, it was very different in a lot of ways to everything else that I'd seen out there. And why was it different? Well, I think in recognizing the differences, I have to recognize a number of things, and that was that we were actually 10 years on now in terms of the introduction of Bitcoin and the blockchain technology space as a whole. So it wasn't new anymore. I realized we're 10 years in, and during those 10 years, there's been a lot of things very fundamentally occurring in terms of the development of the technology and in terms of the companies and projects developing off the back of it. It's no longer a fad. We're now at a point where we've grown that the cryptocurrency markets alone are a $2 trillion industry. I mean, when we first started out, it was very small in comparative to markets like the forex markets and stock markets in terms of the volume of dollars. But the cryptocurrency market now, over that period of time, has grown to a $2 trillion industry. We've now got institutions falling over themselves to get a slice of the pie, realizing that potentially, they're sort of jumping on the bus a little bit too late. So to recognize all of those things, it made me realize that we are kind of on the precipice of a very, very big change when it comes to the financial space and future financial offerings. We're moving from what was once just a very controlled, centralized space now to what we call, the latest cash cry is DeFi, which is all about decentralized finance. So within the decentralized finance now, we now have the opportunity to gain our own sovereignty, so to speak. We're more in control of our funds. And off the back of this technology, we realize that there's a very, very, you know, critical time window here where we can benefit greatly as individuals. I mean, we saw the dot com era, I suppose, those of you that remember the dot com era. Um, it's kind of like that all over again. I mean, blockchain, is kind of the internet 2.0. The technology itself moving forward in the future will change our lives and the way we do things, the way that the internet did. But we need to realize that the dot com era is kind of will pale into comparison of the kind of the movement of wealth that we're going to see over the next few years. The transfer of wealth is going to be huge. So off the back of all of those things and understanding that little bit of background, um, new opportunities are coming to light for the individuals as investors and as speculators. New opportunities arising outside of what we've atypically just been served up or had to put up with, from the banks, so to speak. If you're not a seasoned stockbroker or share trader, or none of us have time for that. So the beauty of Hyperfund is it provides us a mechanism by which we can grow our funds. So think of it sort of like it works on the basis of a membership, but it's also a mechanism by which we can grow our funds, almost like a forced savings account that will eventually provide us moving forward with a sustainable cash flow. So it's important to remember this isn't something where we build up a heap of money and can take a big lump sum out. To me, this is more integral than that, even more important than that, is it provides us almost, so to speak, what we essentially want to and try to achieve with our 401ks, our pension funds, or a superannuation. It's what we're ultimately all looking for to achieve true time freedom. And that's a passive income flow that can replace our work income. So to me, in my view, that's where true stability and time freedom comes from. Is having a sustainable passive cash flow. So Hyperfund membership provides a perfect mechanism for that. Um, so we'll go into a little bit more details about how the membership works soon, but I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Hypertech group, Ryan Zhu and Sam Lee, who are behind the opportunity, and why it is that they're actually doing this. Um, so these guys have actually come off the background of the past 10 years of essentially, you know, working with startup projects, building new projects, growing their equity portfolio. They have a $10 million equity portfolio between their project ownerships, their exchange equities. They've been mining very, very big mining companies in the cryptocurrency space for a significant number of years now. And obviously, just through that mechanism alone, have accumulated a huge amount of crypto assets. So, a very high value crypto assets, which they also stake and make revenue off. So, all of these things pointed to me and showed me that this was a very large financial group that had already a number of established sources of consistent revenue within the company group, which for me was important. I needed them to be financial because I needed to know, well, how are they going to sustain being able to pay me my return that they're promising on my memberships. And trust me, I've seen companies before in the space, very flimsy, very new, relying simply just on one source of revenue and not a long term established one either. Something that they were just kind of running from week to week, trying to turn some profits in the trading markets and things like that. So, not necessarily stable, sustainable, or very secure. So that was the first thing for me that I noted that made me really comfortable is already multiple sources of established revenue for the company group in itself. And the second thing that I really liked is that it's a very, very fair system. So in terms of the hyper fund, what gets returned, one will return three to anybody. And why I say fair is because these guys are wanting to build the largest blockchain community in the world. So obviously they're asking for our help to build the community, and but in doing so, inviting others. But you don't have to invite others to benefit from it. But this is one of the great things that I loved. Whether you were passive or helping build the community, everybody got the same. This is not one of those type of companies where, they're paying commissions or Hyperfund Hyper Community do not pay commissions. What they essentially do to reward those that are helping them build the community is they accelerate the release of the membership. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially with our memberships, when we when we when we purchase our memberships, we're essentially providing this group with, I suppose, venture capital, which is what they've done in the past. They've raised venture capital of very, very high yield, highly profitable um, people with a lot of money, and they've used that money then to develop and bring new projects to market, which they have obviously then got penny stocks in and made a lot of money and profit themselves. But they've now shifted to a different phase in their growth, I guess you could say. So that first decade was all about new projects establishing themselves in the industry. They have very, very strong government relationships. They've set up 16 not for profit blockchain global centers around the world that are there to support new blockchain company and industry startups. So that alone was an incredible feat for them to achieve. It shows me, how adept they are in what they do. Not only did they set up those not-for-profit centers in different countries around the world, they did so garnering not just the support of the governments in those countries, but also financial contributions from the governments in those countries. So all of these things that I looked at those, was very significant to me in my assessment of their abilities and their long-term sustainability within the industry as a whole. So having spent that 10 years in doing what they were doing, then now again, as I said, decentralized finance is where the industry is now going. So they're at a point where they want to launch and offer, nine new service-based applications. We're looking in the space of media, taking on the eBays and Amazons, you name it. We're taking Hypertalk, taking on the likes of Webinar Jam and Zoom, but we're talking, taking all of these services that we currently enjoy in our everyday life on the internet and putting them onto blockchain technology, which is far superior, it's far more efficient, and it's far more private, all of those kind of things. So that's their roadmap for the next few years. They also have 300 new projects that they want to bring to market. So what they've very cleverly recognized is for them, because it's quite a courageous sort of roadmap. They've recognized for them to have the best success in achieving their goals and what they want to do is to have a very strong and loyal customer base behind them. So that really is what Hyper Community and Hyper Fund is about, is building the largest blockchain alliance in the world, whereby not only is every community member rewarded, but also incentivized to support them in the very projects and applications that they want to bring to market. So it's a very nice synergy. It's a 100% win-win situation. Um, and yeah, as I said, in all of my time in the financial industry, it really is one of the most powerful instruments that I've seen in establishing a fund that delivers you a consistent long-term cash flow in perpetuity. And you can start with as little as 300. So a little as 300 US compounded over time, you'd be amazed at what it builds to. So 300, 500, and 1,000 are the entry points. Um, as I said, it is a membership. So it works as a membership on the basis that obviously it's a membership that provides you with rewards. Our rewards are what we call HU. We're rewarded daily with HU. HU is simply hyper USD. It's equivalent to one USDT or one US dollar value. So that's the beauty also. All of our membership returns are stable, pegged to the one US dollar value. And how does it work? Well, with the example of a 1,000 membership, you are purchasing three times. So for a 1,000 membership contribution, the company says, okay, we will take your 1,000, we will use that to support and bring to market the new projects that we want to bring to market. And in return for your contribution, we will return to you 3,000. They, of course, however, need time with your funds to be able to utilize it and get things going and generate profits. And, so they can't just go, okay, here's 1,000, we'll give you 3,000 back. Like that would be a really fun machine if we had one of those, when they put 1,000 and get 3,000 out the bottom. So what they say is, we will release that 3,000 to you over a period of time so that we have enough time to utilize the funds, essentially like venture capital, I suppose you could say. We will utilize those membership funds towards the development of our projects and our applications and all of these services that we want to deliver. And we will return that to you at 0.5% daily of your contribution. So in the case of a 1,000 membership, 0.5% of that is 5 per day. So essentially, you'd be looking at a 600-day period. So 3,000 divided by 5 per day would take 600 days for at 5 per day to get your full 3,000 released to you. So that is essentially what it is. We get rewarded in HU. Now, they then provide us with the opportunity, as I said, entry points are 300, 500, or 1,000 memberships. They're all identical, just different entry points. And you can buy memberships whenever you like. and in any multiples, any number or any multiples of those membership amounts. What they do allow us to do, however, in the situation we use the example again of the 1,000 membership, after 10 days, we would have a full 50 HU released to us as rewards. So we then have a choice at that point. We can then redeem the HU for cryptocurrency tokens, which I guess is not that dissimilar for your loyalty flyer programs. You redeem your flight points for discounted flights or free tickets. It's the same kind of concept. We redeem our HU for different cryptocurrency tokens, which we can then take to market. We can hold them speculatively for long term, whether they're going to go up or down. If you are new to the cryptocurrency space, think of a cryptocurrency token or coin as no different to a share in a company, or a stock or a share in a company. It is the same thing conceptually. Is that each coin represents a share of a particular company or startup. It's just tokenized as a coin, as distinct from a share itself. So it's important to recognize that. It helps you understand a little bit how it's like for like. So you can then take those cryptocurrency tokens and sell them to market and put them into more common cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which you can then exchange back to US dollars quite easily. Or you can do what we call a rebuy. Now, the rebuy is where you kind of, discover the eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein put it, is compounding. Okay, so once we get 50, the company allows us to do a rebuy, which I guess you could think of as like simply a mini membership. So a mini membership of 50 HU, again, you will get your 3 times leverage. So what it essentially does for you is it adds to your membership base or contribution that you are getting released to you at 0.5% daily. So you started off with 1,000, releasing at 5 per day. Once you do a rebuy, you now have a membership base of 1,050 that will release at 5.25 per day. Once you do a second rebuy, you now have a membership base of 1,100 releasing at 5.5 per day, and so forth and so forth. So naturally, as your membership base increases, as does your daily release. So that daily rewards amount, obviously being more, will get you to 50 quicker. So the whole thing kind of just speeds up. But of course, every time you're rebuying, you're force saving and increasing your membership base. As you increase your membership base, you increase the amount of that passive daily cash flow. So that is ultimately what you want to look at over time, is building up to what is your magic number? What is your magic daily number that's going to allow you to true time freedom, or for one of you to give up work, or for one of you not have to work on that dreaded Saturday morning shift or Thursday late night shopping shift, to give you that extra time at home with the kids, or, so you don't have to miss the Saturday morning soccer game because you're doing a weekend shift. So everybody's magic number is different, but it can be as simple as that. It could be as little as my magic number is 50 per day, or it could be 500 per day. But we all have a magic number that would make just that little bit of difference. Well, often these little things are big differences, particularly in our lives. We all know exactly where I'm coming from. The smallest thing can make such a huge difference overall to us and our families as a whole. Um, so that is essentially how the mechanism works. So you obviously, the two components to it is money and time. The more money you can hit it with, the less time it will take you to get to your goal. Obviously, but we don't always have infinite financial resources. But you can start with a small amount of money, add to that time, and before you know it, you have a substantial fund that's returning a passive daily income. Now, we do have a strategy whereby we can make that perpetual in nature. Any fund that you build up where you get to the point where you decide you're not going to rebuy anymore and you want to start drawing your magic amount per day or per month, whatever it is, you will have a full 600 days or 20 months, almost 20 months. So a full 600 days of that passive daily income before it goes to zero. But what we are then able to do at that point is what we talk about is we can set up a second fund. So while you're enjoying the spoils of your first fund that you've just grown, you are building a second fund behind it so that it would never get to the point where it reaches zero. You've got a full 20 months. You can get to the point where you are then kind of just swapping back and forth between the two every 12 months. And if you do it on a 12-month basis, of course, every 12 months of compound is also going to grow it to a higher daily number as well. So we can keep up with the inflationary pressures along the way as well. So this is the mechanism by which we can create true time freedom and essentially like a daily releasing pension fund that we can build off our own funds. It's completely in our control. And without worrying about relying on the stock markets or the share markets or, all of those kind of financial instruments, which really, in my opinion, I trust type of fund more with my super fund, my superannuation money right now than I do my own super fund. And that's the truth, because, you know,
That's
over
what
the
I love
past,
about it too. I mean, I feel so, I really feel very, very safe with it, secure. I don't have time to babysit a stock or a coin, even anything that's going up and down in volatility and worrying about loss or where I should buy or sell. This is just adding to a fund that just keeps growing for me. And it's not anything that I have to babysit. And I know that it's just building and it
100%
be there. Because that's the nice thing about it. It's so honestly just
easy.
so relaxing and easy. Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot of time or energy or anything you have to put into this. And Amanda, we can talk about, you talked about the triple awards and everything, which currently are going on right now, which are another great plus with the company. Um, that's why I have created a page on my website for this at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/fund. And there is more information that Amanda and I have, given in the past. And we have an upcoming webinar. There'll be a link if one is coming up, if you're listening to this live, where we'll do some more Q&A to answer any questions. But the fund page on my site will give you the steps to how you would start your own hyperfund account. It takes, minutes. It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
And then how you can fund it when you're ready to, and just get the process started, but basically how that works.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I mean, it is a process, isn't it, Karen? And I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's a process because too is where we're essentially crossing over from the fiat as in US dollars or Great British pounds or the current financial system over into a whole decentralized financial system, and particularly in the US, the authority they are threatened and they don't make it easy, do they, Karen? But it's certainly a very simple process. It just yeah, it
yeah,
just and once there's a few steps and a few hoops, but once you've got there and you're funded, I mean, how long does it take you, Karen, to do your rebuy per day? What,
well, it takes,
few minutes?
well, I'm up to three rebuys a day now, which is really exciting.
Oh, well
Yeah,
done.
it takes
That's
me,
wonderful.
I go in, it's kind of a little game for me. Where are we at? Are we at a 50
Yeah.
yet?
Yeah.
And then if we are, I immediately, hit that rebuy button and then I'm done. It takes seconds, and it's
Yeah.
fun because it lets me watch it daily growing for me, which is, yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah, I have to admit that is fun, and every day you're watching it. And you know that the next day, I mean, like if you're at three buys, that's 150, that's extra 75.75 releasing the next day. So you're waiting to see that, and it goes quicker and quicker and quicker, doesn't it?
It
And it's
does.
fun to just watch it growing and growing and growing. It is. I mean, the power of a compound is amazing, and I think the funnest part about this too is it's not magic numbers; it's just straight maths. This is
Yeah,
straight math, and
nothing fancy really to have to
yeah.
figure out. You just
And I mean,
this.
one of the most important things I think for me was, I suppose, is I mean, not only the benefit of how it's benefited my family, because as you know, I've been in from the start. I've been most grateful and you know very lucky to have been in from the start on this. And so I've been in for a while now. But I mean, my husband is now retired. I've paid off the mortgage. He's
Wow.
home with the girls. He takes care of the girls for me just so I can purely focus on hyperfund and helping others and helping other families. And not only that, I've been able to establish a fund now for the girls. I mean, Georgia's 16. She's only got a couple of years left in high school. And I've been able to establish a fund now that I know that no matter what she wants to do, she wants to be the next Steven Spielberg. She wants to make movies. They are going to change the world according to her. She's very creative. So I know that whatever she wants to do, I'm going to be able to financially support her with an income while she studies or learns whatever it is that she wants to do. Charlotte's a bit of my 12-and-a-half-year-old grunge rocker. Just got her electric guitar and wants to be a music teacher. So that's been really important. And I mean, it's not much now, but I know in 2 years' time, it will be substantial. It will be enough for me to provide them with a weekly bursary that will be enough to support them so that they don't have to get a part-time job while they're studying. Or so it's allowed me to do that. And I'm not sure how it is in the US, but I mean, here in Australia, under our National Disability Insurance Scheme, there is a small amount of money that George is now entitled to, mobility allowance and a small disability pension now that she's over 16. So I'm able to put that to work for her as well, into the fund and compound and grow that for her as well. Um, so it's really been a blessing. I haven't had to pay exorbitant fees to go and sit in the offices of fancy accountants or financial advisors and have them, charge me for their strategic plans of the stocks and all of these things that they're going to do for me. I can do it myself. I can manage it myself, and I know that it's a lot more profitable than anything else I've seen out there. I mean,
It's
even
stable.
straight line with no compounding, you triple your money.
Hmm.
You can literally buy a membership withdrawal every month for 20 months and get three times your money back with no compound, no rebuy, no nothing. Now, I don't know of a pension fund out there that could triple your money in 20 months. Not
Yeah.
legally, anyway.
Well, yeah, and the stability and the security behind this are, like I said, that I haven't ever seen anything quite this good. And that's why, as Amanda, you have shared this so perfectly. You always explain it so well. I love
Well,
listening to you.
thank you. I, I worry I go in a bit deep sometimes, but yeah,
Well, you're knowledgeable and you're passionate about it, and that's a
I
great
am.
combination.
Yeah. It's changed my life and it will change. It's taken that pressure off and it will change, the futures for my children. And I just a bit of savings and a bit of time, it can make a huge difference. I'm not laying awake at night now thinking, well, how am I going to pay for the courses that she wants to do, or support her financially when she gets to that point where she wants to leave home or do her studies or become a movie director, however that is going to happen. But it will happen. So, I don't have to lay awake at night wondering how I'm going to manage it along with everything else I'm trying to manage on a day-to-day basis, just between bills and food. And we all know that COVID certainly hasn't helped in the larger scheme of things either. That's an additional pressure. um so it's just been such a relief. I guess one of the biggest things I do get, Karen, is it seems too good to be true.
Right.
you know
Hmm.
and it does. It honestly
Yeah.
does.
If I
But
was
that's
out there in
because
life,
we've
I
been
could see
conditioned.
it was real. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. It's because we've been conditioned
Mhm.
to we had what we've had and what we've been served up by the powers that be and by the banks, and not to go to Woodstock hippie on you all, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we just get so used to what the powers that be serve up. We don't realize that off the back of the technology is opening up a completely different realm and it's completely different area of opportunity. And I mean, even Ryan Zhu himself, one of our founders, it's on Prime Amazon. I'm sure you've got it up on your website. What was it? Naturally occurring.
The fun page
Natural
we created is at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/fund,
fun.
FUND. And that will give a more overview. Yes, as you're saying, the due diligence page, some background on the
Yep.
company, so you can really research more yourself, because I totally understand you wanting to really see the credibility for yourself.
100%.
And then if you're interested too, there are steps to show you how to set up your hyperfund account. And then beyond that, how you can fund it as well. And there's some Q&A that Amanda and I have done there in the past that you can also get some value out of and education from. A lot of the, frequently asked questions. And then we have an upcoming webinar, and that if you're listening to this live, it'll just be in a few days. Then the link to register for that free webinar for Amanda and I to come on soon again will be that you could join in and ask questions yourself in a chat box. There's a link on that fund page right now. Again, if you're listening to this live, that will be for the next webinar that Amanda and I will be doing, again, to answer more
Yep.
questions, because we want to make sure you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and we definitely encourage you to check all of that out, do your own due diligence. But I was going to ask you, is the Amazon Prime the next blockchain documentary, independent documentary? Have you put a copy of that up on your site? If you haven't, I will send it to you, recommend it. It's a very good insight. Ryan Zhu, our founder, um, features in this independent documentary on Amazon Prime. Um, if cryptocurrency is something of interest, I highly recommend you watch it. It's called Next Blockchain. And in that, he talks about his passion for blockchain cryptocurrency. He features in episode 6, the players. So he's been a very big and significant player within the industry itself for quite some time. But one of the things that struck me was the way that he views the current systems, and he sees it as anarchy, and he is actually a self-proclaimed utopian, and it's his belief off the back of blockchain technology that we can all gain wealth and abundance. So it's interesting to sort of, get an insight into Ryan, who he is, and what he believes as well. So, whilst it's definitely a win-win in the setup in terms of hyper community and hyper fund and how those mechanisms work, there is also that certain small element of utopian there, of him wanting to see others become wealthy and abundant off the back of blockchain technology, because which he believes is truly achievable with this
I'm happy
technology.
that we're sharing more about the possibilities with the cryptocurrency, because people, I know, like you said, Amanda, we get very conditioned by our societies, and we hear about it. And like you started with this thing, in the past, they thought it was going to be a fad, or it wasn't real, or what is this? And now as things are converting over, the top stock market people in the world are saying cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, you're hearing it all over the place.
Yep,
And
$100%.
this is something that I'm so happy to be able to be somebody educating others about, because it is something you
Exactly.
need to know about for your future as well. And decentralized and safe and secure, but then hyperfund just takes it to that next level, having something within the cryptocurrency arena that is so safe and stable, and introducing it to you. And again, as Amanda and I both have lived, and as you probably are living as well, raising a child with special needs creates a need for more funds, often more money. And
100%.
so, you don't want to get stopped short of the things that are important to do for your child, that you want and need to do for them. whatever those things may be, and because of money. And this can allow a separate fund that you can start growing for those things, or for their future, or for their future, and for their future even when beyond when you're here anymore, when you're gone. So it gives
100%.
us opportunity, and I hope this has been really helpful for you. Again, please continue to further your education on this on my website at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/fund, FUND. And there's a lot of really valuable information there for you, as well as how to set up a hyperfund account and then how to fund it next after that stage if you're, wanting to, just to get your feet wet and to sort of start looking at this and further education as well. So, and like I said too, is if you're listening to this live, there's a link also on that page right now that in a few days, in about a week or so time, a man and I, or less than that, a man and I will be doing another Q&A webinar. So anytime we're going to be doing those a lot, and a live one's coming up, I'll add the link to that page as well, so that you could register for those live events that we do. But there is ongoing support from the company as well, and I've linked to some of those for weekly live events that they put on to continue the education. And Amanda, I just want to thank you again so much for being here with us and sharing your time and your expertise, and again explaining it so well to our listeners, because it's so valuable, and I'm really again grateful for your time. So thank you again.
You're most welcome. It was great to be here.
All right, everybody, take care, and definitely check out the page. It's naturallyrecoveringautism.com/fund, FUND. And feel free to share it with any friends or anybody you know who might be interested as well, because there are a lot of people out there as well who need this information. So, and you can learn more about sharing it as well on that page too, if you'd like. And how that can even accelerate your own rewards. But just so that you understand the benefits of it, we're here to just help educate you and make you feel comfortable with any decisions that you make as well, and being able to do your own due diligence, because there is a lot of valuable information, education available to you on that page to dig even further and hopefully get your questions answered. So thanks again for listening, for being here, for doing what you're doing for your children. And I hope this helps you on your journey with your child and your family, and helping to create a secure and happy, healthy, and the most fulfilling life possible for yourself, and quality of life to be able to have some fun, as well as always just feeling like we're having to work so hard, right? It's about enjoying our lives, because that's what we're here for. And hopefully this can help you as well with that. So thanks again for listening, for being here, and we look forward to seeing you soon.